Good evening, everyone. We're here for a city council meeting. Today is Monday, June 6th, 2022. We'll start this meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom.
Here.
Weifenbach.
Here.
Roberts. Here. Stroman.
Here.
Armstrong. Here. Jones.
Here.
Lehman. Here. Solomon.
Here.
Evans. Here. Drew.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is an invocation, which will be by our very own Jason Solomon. And following the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance.
As we begin, I'll have a moment of silence as we remember the victims of the flood 50 years ago this week, followed by the Lord's Prayer. So join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Of the United States of America.
Thank you, everyone. Now for the adoption of the agenda. This is a time when the City Council may adopt the agenda as written or make certain alterations to it. Would there be a motion? So moved. Motion by Jones to approve and a second by Lehman. All in favor of approval of this agenda say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay, next up on the agenda is a few words from our special guest, former Rapid City Mayor Don Barnett. If you could come over to the microphone over on this side, Mr. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. It brings back lots of memories to join this meeting here. So much has changed in the last 50 years, not only as the flood as our barometer, but as the city itself. It's hard to avoid the vigor and enthusiasm of the current election. And maybe I could just suggest that civility on Wednesday morning is very important to Rapid City. We've got to get over this negative name calling and this viciousness. I have never seen an election like this with the degree of adjectives as strong as there seems to be in the public appetite in this election here. I don't think it's a Democrat-Republican animosity. It seems some candidates are running for office not only to win, but to destroy their opponent. That's not healthy for democracy. We used to get along. I was just home from Vietnam when I ran for mayor. I didn't have much money. I had a platform involving the Civic Center, and I can remember that my opponent and I became close, very close friends. He was the former commander of Ellsworth Air Force Base, and was I going to suggest at age 28 that he wasn't qualified to be mayor of Rapid City? My opponent was a gentleman, a fine citizen, in the finest definition of those words, and we worked on that civility. There were 6 candidates, but 4 got eliminated before the runoff. We shook hands and we said, we were not going to make it impossible for the winner to become a strong and good mayor for Rapid City. His name was John Barnes, B-A-R-N-E-S. I was Don Barnett, B-A-R-N-E-T-T. And not to confuse the people, but when I was able to raise a few bucks, I made the ETT on Barnett very large, so they would recognize I was the brat candidate for mayor. That's what they said. But I was able to win by a massive majority of 168 votes. But I made peace with the council the very next day. And I knew that to be an effective mayor, we had to have effective communication. And frankly, I got off to a very bad start. I thought I had all the answers. And of course, the city council convinced me within about 6 weeks that I did not have all the answers. And I learned from those pokes in the nose that we could get along, and the more we cooperated and the more I lowered my profile, the more business that we got done. And then I was able to use productively the wisdom and brains of the city council, and we governed as a team. And that team did some wonderful things for Rapid City. On the Civic Center, the planning, the committees, the location, the design, the financing was always accomplished by 10 councilmen, and I would ask the clerk to insert my name as in total agreement. And we did that for the first year, and we got a massive vote of support to build the original Civic Center, and we were all set then, and the community was filled with optimism. And then we had the flood. And that's history, and it's going to be talked about during the agenda that the mayor has put together. And I hope it will be a learning moment in the history of our city where we can learn the lessons from the past. And what we learned in City Hall is when we ironed out the policies and used our ears and not our obnoxious personalities, when we would listen and learn, all of a sudden the best policy would come off the table. We'd pass that by a resolution. I would tell the clerk to enter my name as voting yes. That was the theme of our recovery. I broke the law 160 times that first year. Whenever we adopted a policy involving recovery, we adopted it by 10, and then I added my vote too. And this was to convince the people that we did have a serious plan to lead Rapid City out of the quagmire of the 1972 flood. I thank you very much for this moment. I'm here in Rapid City, my hometown. I grew up in the Gap on West Rapid Street, right behind the Dunn Brothers Coffee House in the old power plant. And that was my home. I played on M Hill. I fished in Rapid Creek, and I became an Eagle Scout, and I went off to serve my country a year and a half in Vietnam. So I commend all of you and thank you for your city council, for your municipal service here. That's not just hot air. You could be home in a dry living room with your family this evening, but you've chosen public service, and ladies and gentlemen, that is a high, high calling. And I thank you so much for this recognition this evening. And best of luck in the future. I know all of us love Rapid City, and let's remember the lesson for Wednesday morning, civility in local government, and let's have a lot of it. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Mr. Barnett. We appreciate you being here. And we would look forward to seeing Mr. Barnett and many others at the events this week to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the flood. There is something in this program for everyone. The program itself, there are some booklets over here on the, for the visitors, booklets over here on the table. And for those watching, all of the events can be found on the website rapidcityflood.com. So, Okay, now, next on the agenda, general public comment. Before we start that, there's a silver Toyota Highlander out in the parking lot with the windows down, and people are worried that your interior is going to get wet, if that's you. First on the list of public speakers, and all of our speakers tonight will get 3 minutes to speak. You'll be able to watch these lights over here to see how you're doing on time. And the first one is Michael. I'm not going to attempt your last name, but you might.
Piegza.
Piezza?
Piegza.
Piezza.
Yeah, my wife and I, we live over on Fox Run Drive, over by the VA, above 5th Street. I wanted to talk to you folks about this Kingsbury, Megan Kingsbury Associates and their proposed meatpacking plant south of Rapid City. The first we heard of this on local news was on May 27th, which was a Friday evening before the Memorial Day weekend, which was kind of a surprise to myself. It's supposedly a $1.1 billion plant with 1 million square feet to process 8,000 cattle per day. I'm not a rancher, but I just use rough math on the back of an envelope. If there were 50 cattle in a semi, that's 160 semis a day. 5-day work week, that's 40,000 cattle. And if it were open 50 weeks of the year, we're talking 2 million cattle coming through Rapid City. Further due diligence on May 31st, there was an additional article published on the DTNPF.com website, which is also known as Progressive Farmer, and their headline said this would be the biggest meat packing plant in the United States. Megan Kingsbury, who's the project manager, compares it to the JBS plant in Grand Island, Nebraska. That plant processes 4,800 cattle per day. Another quick Google search showed that Grand Island's a city of 51,250 folks, and their typical real estate is over $100 per square foot less than Rapid City's south and southwest side. There were also on Google multiple hotlines that were set up over the years for the JBS plant because of complaints about the smells. Re-engineering was done, more complaints were issued, they had to set up these hotlines, they had to stop production, they had to do more engineering, and these issues continue to go on. They're all over Google. So how does this fit with the BHIC, which is the Black Hills Industrial Center? They're going to have an anchor tenant with 2,000 new jobs, which sounds like a great plan. The Kingsbury and Associates plan is for another 2,500 jobs, so that's 4,500 folks in a small little area south of Rapid. Now, we've seen so many great things happen in Rapid, especially the south side. I could name the expansion of Monument Health, the building of the Black Hills corporate headquarters, the groundbreaking on the new VA in that area. This is a tourism town. I don't see how this thing could possibly fit in here. I know there's not that much information about them yet, but the groundbreaking scheduled for 2023 in these articles is very scary. It's 7 months away. So I want to know how we get more information, how we find out if this is a fit for us, because after all that Kristi Noem's done for tourism, I don't see this being a very good tourist add to Rapid City. It's the wrong project, wrong place, wrong time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker tonight is Chuck Henry.
I had my computer, but I lost it. I need to make a public apology to Jason and all the firefighters. They're my friends. And I tore them apart 2 weeks ago. It's not their fault. It's how the call comes into the 911 station, and they got protocols the dispatchers follow. So since I turned them down last meeting, I need to do this apologize. I would like to take you through my experience with the flood. I was a kid at the time. every summer my parents and I would come to Rapid for vacation. We were going through the hills, and my dad heard it on the radio, and he kind of sped up, and we went straight to my grandma and grandpa's, which they were safe on Philadelphia and Maple. But I had 2 cousins that got caught in the flood, had to hang on to mailboxes. And I remember being downtown where the one bar is now, where Monument Health did the laundry. I don't know if they're still doing it back there or not. But I remember going through there with getting shots, one manually and one with a gun. And I had a cousin's house that moved from one side of the street to the other side. And the china that was up, not hanging up, but against where it was vertically, that stayed that way. My aunt and uncle were right next to the creek, but they're higher than the creek. All they had was water in their basement, which I helped cleaned it out. But they had chickens and chicken coop that was on the lower part. And they lost every chicken in that coop. I don't know about livestock. I know they had one cow at one time. And they had a bridge they had to cross over. They almost lost that. And there's these people by that bridge right there that were trying to save the bridge so it wouldn't go out. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's all for our public comment period. Now on to non-public hearing items, items 1 through 34. We'll open public comment on these items, and the speaker request tonight's from Chuck Henry on items 10 through 18.
I hate it when my computer goes down. Okay, we'll start out. Oh, I've talked about this before and more and more. Here's some more people that don't want to build sidewalks. It's dangerous for pedestrians to walk in the street. I know that. I had to do when there was snow at one of the bus stops. It was so high it wasn't cleared off. And it was dangerous. If you in the news lately, there's been a lot of violence going on. One thing that comes to my mind, a 17-year-old plows down this lady and her baby in the stroller. He was already on parole. Now he's trying to murder somebody. We've got to stop this violence. It brings up another point. The gal that doesn't want to have Native Americans on her property, which she can't do because of federal law, discrimination, and then she attacks the picketers and spraying stuff in their face. To me, that's aggressive assault, not simple assault like they charged her with, because she was using something. But just look at that. The murder happened over politics. Politics. People are not satisfied. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of all the fighting between Democrats and Republicans in U.S. Congress or what. And I'm glad we're finally seeing more groups going out and helping the homeless instead of the police department and fire department taking it over. I mean, relaxing from it. Because that's what we need in Rapid City. To help these homeless instead of a hand out, hand up. Thank you.
You. That'll close the public comment period on these items. So now on to consent items 1 through 30. Would the council like to pull any items? Pat Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. Items 17 and 18, please.
Okay, Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 14, please.
Any other items council would like to pull off the agenda? Ron Weifenbach?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number 9.
Okay. Looks like that's it, so I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of 9, 14, 17, 18. Motion by Evans, second by Lehman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, going backwards, Jason Solomon.
Can I pull item 25 for a
Yes, you
question?
may.
Thank you.
Okay, new motion then to approve consent with the exception of 9, 14, 17, 18, 25. Same person making the motion and the second. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9. Authorize staff to purchase 13 third-eye positive verification camera systems for installation on the solid waste collection trucks from Northern Truck Equipment Corp. Price is $50,115 for product and installation and is the sole source and is a technology purchase. Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make the motion to approve. And
Okay, second by John Roberts.
just wanted to make a little bit of comment. This is one of the things that came out of when we were talking about moving the landfill along originally with the fee increase type things and stuff like this. And this will provide the trucks with some ability to they'll be able to have video to see about different opportunities that they arise when they're out picking up trash, because it seems to be a simple, easy thing to do, but there is a little bit of complication to it, so I'm happy to see this being approved tonight. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item number 9. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 14. Authorize staff to apply for and accept, if awarded, the fiscal year 22 Office of Justice Programs Community-Based Violence Intervention and Prevention Initiative Grant in the amount of $2 million. Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Who would you like me to direct any questions on this to? The police, assistant police
Start
chief?
with Assistant Chief Scott Sitz.
Okay. Thank you. Scott, just a few questions I normally ask a committee, but just want to make sure, and we've chatted briefly, but for the public, what strings are attached to the grant?
So there are no strings attached. There's no city match. The only thing we have to do or required to do is report quarterly on our initiatives and activities.
Okay. On the reporting requirements, what kind of things are we reporting?
Well, so this grant, what this grant does is it aims to add 3 people to Journey On, to street outreach. We're also looking at adding some youth mentors and also youth intervention street outreach team. So really reporting on those activities, those successes, possible failures, and initiatives to further that program along.
Okay. So we won't actually be doing anything different other than investing in the Journey On program that has seen great success so far. Is that true?
Yes, we will be adding on to Journey On, but we'll also be adding some other components to assist Journey On and expand that program with street outreach, victim response, and also some service navigation.
Okay. And we're adding a position with this as well, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
According to the item. And, 2 questions that always come up with grants, just to cover it. Does this at any way at all increase gun control?
No, sir.
It's always a question. And 2, does this at all favor criminals over victims?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I yield.
Okay, motion to approve by Lance Lehman. Second by Greg Stroman. Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to abstain, given my relationship with Journey On being the president of the board. I just think that would just be the honorable thing to do. Thank you.
Duly noted. All right, we have a motion and a second for approval of 14. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries with one abstention from Councilwoman Armstrong. Okay. Item 17, authorize the mayor and finance director to sign Great Plains Co-Response Services contract in the amount of $114,000 for the calendar year. Pat Jones.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve and keep the floor, if I can get a second, please.
Second, Richie Nordstrom. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Who should I address questions to on item 17? Any volunteers over here?
Probably me.
Okay.
Fire Chief.
Thank you very much, Chief. So in looking at 17 and kind of 18 together, but 17 right now, since that's the one we're on, we're adding on services. It looks like we're hiring someone in services through Great Plains. Will they be working independently from Journey On or working together with them? Can you talk a little bit about that, what that relationship, we hope it will be like?
Right, it's going to be part of the co-responder group, which includes Journey On. So yes, working with, but in conjunction with, more than working with Journey On. So the collaboration between the police department and fire department, Journey On, and now Great Plains, they'll be providing some case management. That's what this will be for, is to provide case management for our Native American population. So a great amount of help for us. So see this as a huge success.
Now, that's what it appeared, that the case management, and this isn't going to be direct response to street level issues rather than actual case management and operationalizing that program more. Is that correct?
Right. Journey On will be more on the boots on the ground day to day, but they're going to be in a consultative type arrangement, so they can be called in on certain types of responses.
And then will there be some kind of a verbiage, document signed or whatever, for free exchange of information between Journey On, this group, police, fire, everyone that needs to be involved?
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
there's no jurisdiction issues there, or
No jurisdiction,
confidentiality,
there's no
or any problems like that?
confidentiality issues. No, you're correct.
Because I was excited to see that we're adding case management to this. It takes the service that we're going to be providing to these folks in need to a whole deeper level. But that was just my concern, that we are, red tape won't get in the way of good deeds being done.
Right, yeah, there will be obviously some things that won't be shared with the entirety of the group, but those that are in the need to know, especially when it comes to that medical side of it, that'll be, shared appropriately.
Right, yeah, and need to know is a better way to put it, so thank you, Chief. That's all, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. May I address Chief Culberson?
Please.
Chief, you prepared a memorandum on May 25th and sent it to Mayor Allender and the council regarding this Great Plains Tribal Leaders Health Board Services contract. I wondered if either I could have permission to read the first two paragraphs of it, or if you would read it, just so I would have the public be aware of what this involves.
Yep, I'm sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
So, and I'll change some of the numbers just because they're accurate, but we have seen great progress in city's investment in these types of community-driven initiatives, especially with Journey On. Journey On has handled over 3,300 calls since December 2021 for services that could have predominantly gone to police officers or firefighters. This service contract is designed to add a case manager from Great Plains Tribal Leaders Health Board to work with Journey On and co-response efforts in Rapid City. The funding for this position is all grant funded and requires no money contributed by the city, which I think is extremely important.
Thank you, Chief. I yield.
Okay, Darla Drew.
Thank you. I guess this will go to Chief Culberson, since you're kind of handling these questions. But so when we have the Great Plains group working with folks, will they work exclusively with Indians? If they find other people, African American, white, whatever, Hispanic, or is their responsibility going to end with the indigenous people?
No, I don't believe that's the case with Great Plains. They've always been open and honest and wanting to work with whoever they are most needed to help. Obviously, Great Plains is very focused in on the Native American population. It's the 3 tribes that are put together to make that happen. But they will give us the assistance that we will when we ask for that.
Well, this outreach is so indigenous-oriented that I sometimes wonder, what happens to the average white drunk, or,
And realistically, we have a lot of those already in place. And
What do you mean by that?
What has been missing is the Native American viewpoint of that.
Hold on, you said you have a lot of those already in place?
So a lot of what we have with the CARE campus, we have, I'm trying to think, I'm totally losing, but our caregivers come from a perspective, non-Native American perspective, where Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board brings that with them. So a large population of our houseless and those that we interact with down by the creek are Native American.
Yeah, I understand.
And so we need that portion.
I just want to check on the equity, that we're
There's plenty.
agreeing to here. Okay, thank you.
Okay, item 17, we have a motion and a second. Laura Armstrong.
I'll probably abstain for this one as well.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on item 17, motion to approve. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with 1 abstention from Councilwoman Armstrong. Item 18, authorize the mayor and finance director to sign Journey On co-response services contract in the amount of $113,360. Pat Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve item 18 and keep the floor if I can get a second, please.
By Jason Solomon. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Chief Culbertson, I'll be asking you a question in just a moment, but I want to commend Mr. Stroman and Ms. Drew. Those are excellent questions, and having you read the first paragraph of that was a great idea. So thank you both for diving in a little bit deeper and asking great questions. Appreciate that very much. So item 18, I read your letter that was attached to the agenda. This is to continue the amount of service currently in place. Is that correct? Or would this expand the services that we're getting right now?
This one will increase. Well, I shouldn't say it increases, it changes. So Rich Bronstein has been heading up Journey On. This puts in a director of operations in the place in order, a paid position for that, in order to direct the operations of Journey On. And I'll apologize to Ms. Drew, Councilwoman Drew, that last week she'd asked me a question about whether they're volunteers or not, and that's not true. Journey On folks are all paid. So I did answer that incorrectly at Legal Finance, so I wanted to publicly apologize for that.
Could I say I'm very happy to know they're getting paid.
Yeah.
I don't really, I'm not with the volunteer system on a lot of things like this. They just don't seem to work
agree.
out long-term. Thank you.
So, thank you, Chief. So let's recap a little bit. Maybe a year or so ago, there were a lot of people in here yelling at this council, accusing us of not doing anything to help take care of homeless people, indigenous people, or intoxicated people, whatever label you want to put on them. And in the course of around a year or so, various programs have come on board with different levels of success. We are now working with Journey On, who came in a few weeks ago and told us what they're doing. It's a tremendous, successful program, removing a lot of pressure from our fire department. The Mayor's Office of Human Services coordinator coming on board to help facilitate it at that level. And now it's going to go to the next level with case management services. So not just, we're not just going to react and respond, we're going to delve in and try to help the life situation of these folks that are in need. So to the city council bashers who say nothing is being done or no money is being spent to help our homeless and indigenous people, I offer a counter to your statements, because hundreds of thousands of dollars are being spent, and quality dollars are being spent, because the resources are quality, the service is quality, and hopefully the impact is making a difference in the lives of these people, and they are going to better themselves through the services they are are receiving. So I want to acknowledge the mayor for his leadership on getting these projects going, police department, fire department, and everyone else, because this is a tremendous step forward in getting these programs together to reach out and provide services to people who are at very likely their worst stage of life. And so I am very proud of those people involved that are making this happen and are going to work hard to continue to make it happen. So thank you all very much. And to the council, we need to make sure we keep these programs in place and we allow ourselves to take care of those folks who are truly in need. Thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe to assist Councilman Jones on some of the language, and if you get an opportunity, go to those presentations. They are very worthwhile. There's a lot of education in that. But just to address one of your concerns that you have tonight, how to describe these people, the common language that's being used right now is houseless people. In a lot of cases, they like to use the language houseless or houseless relatives. So that maybe that'll help you out in kind of working the language a little better. Thank you, Mayor. I yield.
Okay. Lance Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Jones, I'd like to make one more point. VOA is part of this group effort with Journey On and Great Plains. And Mayor, I need to abstain from this vote as the board treasurer of Journey On.
Okay. Laura Armstrong.
I'm going to abstain as well. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor for approval for item 18. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with 2 members abstaining, Lance Lehman and Laura Armstrong. Item 25, approve to allow city council members and their beneficiaries to be included on the city's health insurance plan. Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would this be a question for HR Director?
Could be.
Or maybe it's a council position, but maybe we'll start with Mr. Strout. Just curious what the timeline of this is. Is this going to affect right away? Is this something after the next election? I'm trying to figure out, just for clarity's sake.
Thank you, Nick Strout, HR Director. We had decided this would go into effect July 1st. All new employees come on the 1st of the month, so if this were approved today, we would like to follow that path and have them come on the next 1st of the month, which would be July 1st.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Darla Drew.
Thank you. And in thinking about the election that's coming up tomorrow, this additional health benefit might increase the number of candidates that come forward. It isn't easy to serve. There isn't a lot of money involved, and there certainly is a lot of time. And I guess, I don't know if it would really entice someone to run if they were going to get health benefits for 3 years, but I think it's worth a shot. It just might improve our candidate pool. As you know, we had 2 races that had no opposition this year. And not that that's really what every candidate wants, but it is not really healthy for a democracy. And as Mayor Barnett said earlier, a lot of the civility that's or incivility that's going on in races right now, even in our city, is going to maybe keep people from getting involved. They say, oh, I don't want to get involved in that. You know, I just heard this horrible ad. And the mayor and council and school board are supposed to be non-political type of campaigns. They don't have to say if they're Democrat or Republican. So anyway, we need to replace civility back into our elections, and I hope that that happens. I'm not leaving because of the incivility. I'm leaving because it's time for someone else to represent Ward 5. But I do hope that if you know someone who's thinking about running, or maybe you were thinking about running, maybe you come to these meetings because you're thinking about running, maybe you watch them on TV because you find somehow this is more than a sleep aid, that you would try and get involved in the city, because I've learned so much over the last 8 years. So for me, I think I will vote for the health plan. I think it's just, if we have to have one more carrot, that's good with me. Thank you.
Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. Can we just state for the record how much this will be costing the taxpayers?
We have an estimate of that today, and the estimate is for 10 members all participating in the plan. We'll know more after everyone signs up, but the out-of-pocket cost to the city is $105,000 annually. So for 2022, it would be in the neighborhood of half of that, or maybe a little less.
And this has never been implemented before?
Not to my knowledge, but I didn't research Rapid City back a long time ago.
Okay. May I direct a question to Mr. Stroop, please?
Yes.
So say we didn't want this, or I'm on my husband's health care plan, or we have a family plan. How does that affect me?
If you chose not to take it?
Correct.
We have employees that choose not to take it. It's an optional benefit, so that would be something that you could take or you could decline.
Okay.
It would not be forced.
All right. Thank you so much.
Ron Weifenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll be supporting this item, and I will not be a beneficiary of this item, but I am going to support it for the people that work here. I know I'm not, I just want to say that I've been on and off for 10 years. It's a lot of hard work. The monetary reward is limited. I don't think people do it for the monetary reward. I think that it is an opportunity that maybe some people may make a decision one way or another. I know I can tell you from the county commissioner's standpoint, their salary is probably almost 3 times the salary of a city council person, and they also receive health insurance benefits.
Really, I'm running for that.
Yeah, it's a good gig for that. But I do know if you have a job or a part-time job or whatever, if you can come and take a job here and supplement it with the health insurance, I think it takes a little bit of the load off. If you're self-employed, such as me, you know what the true cost of health insurance is in the industry. It makes it tough. I'm not going to be a beneficiary of it, but I think it's a good decision and a best practice for the city to allow this to happen for this council that remains after the end of the month here in June, which I will not be here anymore, so I will not be a beneficiary of it. But also, when we make decisions up here, one of the things we need to do is and we've been doing better, looking at how our decisions affect the future in our city and what's the best practice for the future of Rapid City. And thinking that through, this is a good decision to be made. I'll be supporting this decision, and the cost is minimal in comparison to the return that they will get and the sacrifice that you pay when you do take on this public servant to be a councilman here. There's a lot of great things that go along with it too, honestly, that are not financially rewarding, but they are. It is a lot of work. I can tell you that. If you want to do a good job at it, it's a lot of work. It's very rewarding, though, too, and I think this is just something that can help with that. Thank you.
We have a motion on this item. Okay, Jason Solomon, motion to approve. Ron Weifenbach, second. All in favor of approval of item 25, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion passes with 1 no. That's takes us to the end of the consent items. Now starting the non-consent items 31 through 34. There are no speaker requests for these items, so we'll forego the public comment period. Item 31, second reading of ordinance number 6539, an ordinance amending section 15.04.030 of the Rapid City Municipal Code regarding the authority of the building official. Motion to approve by Darla, second by John Roberts, and let's go to our Finance Director, Pauline Sumption.
I was trying to get in before this one. I need clarification on the last motion as to where the funding source is coming from this, because it's an unbudgeted item, please.
Okay, let's dispose of the item on the table at the moment first. So we have a motion and a second on item 31, correct? Okay, all in favor of approval of item 31, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Going backwards to item 25, I believe it's intended for the, for 2022 to be the Council Contingency Fund. Is that correct?
I think that would be the best place for it to come out of, Mayor.
And if
The Council Contingency
if
Fund?
that is the in fact, where the funding is from, we actually need a motion to transfer the money from the Council Contingency Fund to a health insurance line item within the council's organizational budget code.
So moved.
Okay, first of all, any objection to reopening item 25 for a moment? Okay, we're back on item 25 to deal with the funding source. Does anyone have a motion?
Motion to move the money for the health insurance from the Council Contingency Fund into this health insurance pot line item.
Okay, we have a motion by Lehman. Second by John Roberts. Laura Armstrong? Okay.
How much money is in there, Pauline? Oh, sorry, Mayor, may I please? Thank you.
100,000.
Yeah, how much is in council contingency?
I think it was 100,000 was in there.
I'm just a little confused. We were going to, somebody was trying to bring something forward a month or two ago about bringing arts, and we're in the middle of a budget, and we don't do that, and we should postpone that, and we all agreed. But I don't know, I just don't like the optics that now that this council will be benefiting from it, and obviously rightly so, because I'm the only one that is against this. I just have concerns where the funding source, so that was the source of my no, and the fact that we are in the middle of a budget right now. So I just wanted to voice my concerns on that. Thank you.
Okay. Pat Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. If the council contingency line item is $100,000 and we transfer all of that to pay for the insurance benefit, we wipe out council contingency. So would that be for one-time funding out of that and then search for another line item to fund it from? Or
what I believe would happen is, first of all, we would see who signs up and under what plan. We would wait till we have a dollar value, and we would take from the council contingency whatever's needed to pay those, to budget for those premiums. Next year, the 2023 budget, this could be budgeted separately under the health insurance benefit line item. Darla Drew?
Yeah. So this would start with the new council and the new people being sworn in July, which gives us half a year, which means $50,000 for this instead of $100,000. So I see that we easily have that amount of money, and it should start after the new council is seated.
Okay. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Just prior to that clarification, I had a question about, I've got another opportunity to get to the National League of Cities convention in, or excuse me, summit in Kansas City in November. So I just, with that clarification, I think I'm okay now. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second on approval of the funding source for item 25. July 1st. Okay, all in favor of the motion for the funding source, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion passes with one no. Back on track with the agenda, item 32. Authorize staff to negotiate with Gallagher Consulting to enter into an agreement for a non-union compensation study to be completed in 2022. Recommendation was sent to this meeting with, or committee sent this to the City Council without recommendation. Jason Solomon.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'll make a motion to approve if I can get a second and retain the floor.
Second by Pat Jones. Go ahead.
I had actually been requesting this for quite some time because compensation studies are very standard practice in businesses. This is how you establish objective but competitive salary ranges for positions. And the fact is that I think it's important that we do that with the city. SHRM, which is the Society of Human Resources, says it takes about, on average, 6 to 9 months of an employee's salary once you lose somebody and have to train and hire someone new to replace them. That's pretty expensive. And so I think it's a situation where I don't want to be penny wise and a pound foolish. It costs a little bit to hire an external company to do that, but why that's important to have someone external do this is so that it's objective, not inflated with internal bias. And it gives us data in order to make clear decisions with regards to the salary ranges of our professional staff here at the city. So I wanted to make sure that we had that information out there, and that's why I'm going to support this. I think it's the right thing to do. It's good business, and certainly our high-performing employees certainly need to have their salaries looked at. That said, I am for competitive salaries, but I'm also for annual increases based on performance, and that would be another aspect to this I'd love to see someday. So I just want to throw that in there. But this has my support. I urge the council. I think this makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. I encourage you to support this study and make sure that we get objective data in order to make decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge the support of this motion as well. I can go along with that, except for the performance pay, not there. And especially when it comes to government employees, how do you do a count of the widgets that they're performing on? So, so I'm not there on that part, but I can support this motion to come forward with the study. One of the things that I was getting comments about is why don't you use the $80,000 for giving that to the employees? I could support that with the exception of who do we give it to? Who deserves that $80,000? And whereas a consultant has that knowledge and is able to talk to the employees with this Gallagher corporation that's going to come in and do the wage study, and then we're going to have it completed up by the end of November, so we'll have an opportunity to take a look at it, what they come up with a report. Doesn't mean we have to incorporate everything in the first year, so hopefully that the council will take this on favorably, because I think it's going to be a good thing for the employees. Hopefully the other part of it is that you've heard from some of the non-union employees on this as well, so please support this. They deserve it. Thank you.
Pat Jones.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I, too, am in favor of this study. I want to acknowledge and appreciate the emails that we received from some of our employees. It was great to hear what they had to say. Some were polite and professional, some were very aggressive, and all points in between. But I do appreciate people taking a stand and wanting to reach out and make sure we think of all sides on this. So to the people who send me emails, I want to say thank you to you, and I appreciate hearing from you very much. Wage studies by third parties are a vital part of the health of an organization. When any organization increases pay, it's not all about the initial pay raise, it's about sustaining it over the years, because it automatically takes everything up another level for expenses for the city to continue to operate. And I want to pay our folks a fair and decent wage, absolutely. I'm just saying, as we look long-term, and this is how I responded to some of the people who emailed me, we have to look at the initial cost of the raise, plus the cost of benefits and all that. So if we give a $100 raise, that raise costs the taxpayers $133 plus or minus because of Social Security and taxes and all that other stuff. So that raise costs money once and ongoing. So it's important that that be put on the table and we remember. But I very much support us giving good wages to all of our people, and a study like this is a fair and honest way, strike honest, that I didn't mean anything honest, I didn't. But it's a fair and objective way to look at it. And on the concept of performance pay or merit pay, my good friend, Mr. Solomon, jeez, thank you. I'm still working on Councilman Nordstrom's houseless. Thank you so much for the correction on that. All the years I was a principal and superintendent, 17 years, the idea of merit pay kept coming up in schools, and it worked never. And so some people say it can be done. Anything can be done. It just depends on what you're willing to accept as the results of doing it. So I never saw merit pay, pay for performance work in a public setting such as school districts, large or small, and I would be concerned that if we were to go to that in our setting. So it's worth discussion. All things are worth discussion, but I've never seen it be successful in a public taxpayer type setting. Thank you.
Ron Weifenbach.
Sorry, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think we're addressing it. I think there was a comment made about maybe in the future, but being on and off the council for 10 so years, off and on, I can tell you we do studies, we do things, and this is probably a good idea to do a pay study, especially right now. I think there maybe needs to be some action taken intermediary. But what the key is in the numbers world, we got a saying about numbers, figures don't lie, but liars figure. And so one of the things that I hope that the council, the remaining council, whoever takes into account this data. All the data in the world does you no good if you don't look at it, analyze it, and make it make sense. I mean, where does it make sense? Where does it not make sense? Maybe there's an opportunity for some of these positions to go away. Maybe there's opportunity for positions to be created. Maybe there's way underpaid. Maybe there's way overpaid. But the real nuts and bolts comes down to how do we take this information and assimilate it into what we're doing here. Just like when I talked earlier about what we dealt with at the landfill and some of the things like the eyeballs on the trucks and the computers in the truck and all these things we talked about, and we spent $800,000 to take that long to make good decisions. So I'm hoping that going forward, that when we do this wage study, which I think is probably imperative but if you look at our history, I could see why some of these employees are sending us emails that maybe not so appropriate or inappropriate or good or bad or whatever, however we decide, because our history has not been that good over the last couple of years of how we've looked at our employees and how we've looked at their compensation packages, how we've looked at some of the people we've made promises to and tried to take the rug out from underneath these guys. So this information will be good and valuable to the people that read it, understand it, and then actually incorporate it into the decision-making process. There's some good people that are heads of some of these non-union people. I think you can trust them enough to understand they're probably fairly aware of the environment that they're dealing with, so their input's necessary. But getting the data, how you use the data is what's going to be the most important factor. So I think that it sounds like they vetted Gallagher. It sounds like they feel comfortable with their ability to vet this out, and how it plays out into the future is what's going to be most important, what we do with it. So I'll support it. I've had a lot of input from people, and it's all been, good, bad, and different. But the main thing is that we get it done. So, and in the interim, I don't know if there needs to be decisions made between now and then because of the dynamics of the cost of living and those types of things. But so, thank you.
Carla Drew.
Thank you. I've been on this council for 8 years without a break. I just thought it was important to say that. I haven't been in and out and whatever. I've been here for 8 solid years. Anyway. Yeah, when I first read this, I was not in favor. I got several letters from people, not only employees, but others that supported it. And I just want to let people know that we read your letters, and they are important. It changed my mind. And I think that can happen with a well-written letter, with a good explanation of why I should change my mind on this particular issue, which I don't really know that much about. I will admit that. I don't know that much about non-union pay scales. The only thing I might ask of, I'd like to ask Pauline, could I ask Pauline a question, please? With these wage studies, do you then put them into effect, or who puts them into some kind of working document?
So and Nick can correct me if I'm wrong, but as part of this RFP process, at the end of the day, we ask them to give us pay scales as part of that process. So they will give us their recommended pay scales, and then it's up to this body whether you adopt and implement it or not.
Wouldn't it make sense to have a schedule of these things so they don't just come to us out of nowhere?
Correct.
You know, like every 3 years we do a wage study, every 3 years we do this, or every 4 years, whatever it is, then we prepare for the cost and people prepare for whether they're going to get an increase or not.
So we've actually talked about that as part of the department director group, and especially the ones that are involved with the union negotiations, because wage studies come up as part of that conversation as well. And and what we have been discussing, and so this is putting you guys on notice, we have 3 unions between the police, the fire, and the ASME, and then we have non-union. So our intent would be somehow to get a cycle going where every year we're doing one work group. And so non-union would be hit every 4 years, ASME would be hit every 4 years, FOP, fire. That's the conversations we're having at our level. So, good idea, Councilwoman Drews. It's definitely been discussed.
Well, I know that we're in a weird position because of the pandemic, kind of just threw everything off. But I do think if we had a schedule, or the future councils had a schedule, and future employees had a schedule, and future directors had a schedule, we'd all be much better off for it. So thank you. I'm glad you're thinking that way.
Jason Solomon.
Thank you. May I direct a question to our HR director once again? As Director Stroot comes up there, I just want to say our staff's been with me very professional, courteous, respectful. Thank you. Thanks for your insight. Not a single person was disrespectful in the emails and phone calls that I received, so which is pretty par for the course for my interaction with the city. Director Stroot, a couple of questions. One was asked already by Councilwoman Drew, and that was the frequency of the studies. Have you taken that into account and have a recommendation for that?
Absolutely. Finance Director's assumption is correct. It would be her preference, because of the budgeting aspect of this, that we get on a schedule. And the initial proposal from me, and this was just thrown out there, was we would do a 5-year schedule. We would do non-union, AFSCME, fire, police, and then take a year off, and then continue that schedule. There's no rhyme or reason for that, just the idea that we get some sort of schedule. And my hope and my belief is that it's going to get easier the more we do it, because it's going to be a big undertaking. And the second time we do it, it's going to be a little less, and then a little less.
And hopefully the cost reflects that. I have a short period of time. Couple of quick questions. When will this work be completed and presented?
November of this year.
November, okay. And then third, will this apply only to new employees, or will it also apply to existing employees and their pay scales? Will all current positions be evaluated as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, because you hate to get in a situation where seasoned employees paid less than a new employee. We need to make sure that that's corrected.
Yeah, we definitely don't want that
All right.
compression.
Thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, first let me apologize for jumping in here, but I want to make a correction there a little bit. It's not the individuals that's going to be seeing this raises or changes. It's going to be the positions. So I want to make sure everybody understands that it's not for an individual person. So just want to make sure that's clear.
Okay, we have a motion and second on the floor for approval of item 32. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Under community development items, item number 33, a request by Baseline Surveying for Gordon Howie for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 4, 5, and drainage lot 1 of block 22 of Trailwood Village, generally described as being located northwest of the intersection of Longview Road and Reservoir Road, and the recommendation is to approve with stipulations. So moved to approve the stipulations. Okay, we have a motion by Lehman to approve with stipulations and a second by Pat Jones. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 34, approve the attached list of the 2022-2023 alcohol license renewals per verification through the Rapid City Police Department and Rapid City Fire Department. On Wyffenbach.
Move approval, and then I'd like to just hold the floor.
Okay, second by Pat Jones. Go ahead.
Just a basic routine question, assuming the police department would, if they had an issue with any of these, they would.
There's no issue I'm aware of.
Okay. So our compliance checks are really going pretty good then? All right.
As far as I know, yes, sir.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay, motion for approval of item 34. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing items 35 through 40. There are no speaker requests on these items, so we'll go to consent public hearing items, which is 35 through 38. Is there a motion? Motion to approve by Evans. Second. Second by Lehman. All in favor of approving the consent items 35 through 38, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, non-consent public hearing items 39 and 40. Item 39, second reading, ordinance 6537, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of Chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by Historic Rapid City for a rezoning request from medium-density residential district to general commercial district for property generally described as being located at 727 South Street. Motion to approve by Drew, second by Evans. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 40, second reading, ordinance 6538, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of Chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by KTM Design Solutions for Stone Ridge LLC for a rezoning request from low-density residential District 1 to general commercial district for property generally described as being located southeast of the intersection of 5th Street and Enchanted Pines Drive. Motion to approve by Pat Jones. Second, Darla Drew. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 41 is the bill list, and for that we'll go to City Finance Director Colleen Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no additions to the bill list, so the total is that which is attached at $14,340,625.35.
Motion to approve by Solomon. Second, Lehman. All in favor of approving the bill list say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Remember, folks, tomorrow is Election Day. Tomorrow is the last chance you get to vote in the primary election and also in the city election and a sheriff's election. So please take, pardon me? School board as well. So please take the time to find out where your polling place is, to get there tomorrow between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Do not delay. This is important. It's about your community and your state and our quality of life. So thank you. Last item, motion for adjournment. Okay. Second. And anyone object? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.